Looking to get yourself started in Star Citizen for under $100? My name is Soldin, and today we're going to take a look into all the game packages within that budget range, and where I'd personally rank them for new players or even for current players who are looking just to add a new ship to their hangar. The last time we did a video on starter ships, we were super new to the game, and all we had to go off was the free fly event, where we had a couple of hours of gameplay and then the website information from each of the ships that suited our budget at the time. But this time around, we've got a good few months of gameplay behind us, an in-game budget to get and test each of the starters that are available at the in-game stores, and more knowledge of what could make or break the decision on which ship to get as your very first starter ship. Before I dive straight in though, if you enjoy my content, please consider hitting the subscribe button and leaving me a comment with which starter ship you would choose if you had a $100 budget. I'm keen to know what your viewpoints are on this range of game packages and if anyone else ranks them the same way I did. I release new content every week and I'm constantly learning new things to make sure it gets better and better, and I'd love to see you in the comment sections of each and every video. Alrighty, time to get on with the show. Let's go over these ships. As I mentioned before, we have a $100 budget. So that puts 7 ships in total that currently fall under the budget mark. I'm going to start from the cheapest to the most expensive, and at the end, we'll pull up a ranking list of which ship I'd recommend for new players to get. First up, we're going to take a look at the Mustang Alpha. Now, the last time we created a list like this entry-level ship from Consolidated Outland was cut short immediately because it had issues with cargo space and delivery missions, and again, we were basing all we knew off the website, Reddit, and the very limited time we got in the free fly event. But I am really happy to let you know that after actually getting to pick one of these up in-game and play around in different missions, my view has completely changed. The Mustang Alpha is a sleek little starter ship that has a little bit of everything. I like the racer-like lines to the ship's design and aesthetic. It really adds to it a lot. The weapons for fighting could definitely be changed out to something a little faster firing once you've made the money in-game to do so, but it's super nimble and really quick to get its speed up. The wingspan was the only little bit of worry at first, but once you've taken to the sky a few times with your Mustang Alpha, the worries become a thing of the past. She's fit for all mission types. The onboard storage is not very deep, so loot goblin-like runs and bunkers wouldn't be possible, but that being said, all you need to do now is grab yourself one of the personal SCU boxes from the cargo center, and that whole problem is solved. With a neat little boot space at the back of the ship, you can carry up to 4 SCU of cargo. That means you can do some light cargo running or carry yourself a big personal loot box right inside here. You can also put delivery boxes inside of here if you're doing some delivery runs and need somewhere to store the packages. The only drawback for me on the ship currently is that there isn't a bed logging option. The fuel tanks are also a little bit low, but very quickly, for those that aren't sure, the term bed logging comes from logging out on the bed of your ship, either landed on a planet or out in deep space. It's a really useful feature when you're on an adventure with friends, or you need to log off in a rush, or simply don't want or need to bother with starting your next session inside of a space station. A lot of ships offer this feature, but there are also ships that don't, so it's something we'll mention for each ship on this list. I was genuinely surprised with the Alpha, especially after the last time we looked at everything when it wasn't even given the light of day. I was definitely wrong when I put the first list together. The next ship up on the list is one that you've probably seen around more than most, as for the lower budget starts, it seems to be the more popular. It's the Aurora MR. Now, whilst the Aurora MR is a fun ship to fly and is generally actually a really great little starter ship, it's worth mentioning right off the bat that the cargo grid is bugged, and currently in 3.22 doesn't always let you buy cargo like SCU from terminals. It just doesn't show the ship up on the terminal no matter how many times you re-land her. As someone who grew my initial lump sum of money between bunkers and mini cargo runs, it's a huge letdown that I really hope they get fixed. That being said, however, I don't have anything else bad to say about the Aurora MR at all. It's a great little ship that can be fun to do pretty much every loop in. The inventory is decent for the size of the ship. It's not going to carry a ton before needing to be emptied, but you can attach a personal SCU box to the undercarriage to solve that issue. So you can run loot goblin runs through missions and bunkers as soon as you get one of them on there. Quick to get up to speed and nicely nimble with a very limited width makes it a really good ship to learn to fly in. I like the design and sleek needle-like feel, and the cockpit, it's a little bit of a squeeze, but there's at least the option to bed log available with the RSI starter ship entry. Combat is fun and forgiving, though like with almost all of the starters, I'd look at the weapons and systems upgrades once you have the in-game money to do so. But overall, the Aurora is a good choice at the lower end of the budget. A really good one. Moving up the ladder though, the next ship we're going to take a look at is the C8X Pisces. An explorer ship with a nice design that gives it a beefy feel that doesn't get in the way of handling. In fact, the Pisces is really nice to learn to fly in and is part of the tutorial. It also has some decent ability for a fight at the same time. The inside of the ship caters for 4 SCU of cargo that will leave a nice little pathway down the middle for yourself and your crew to get to your seats. That's right, your crew. You can bring 2 friends along in this starter ship with ample inventory space. And I don't think it's really needed for you to get the personal SCU boxes either, unless you're really going for a huge loot run. I'd like to point out here that although I do talk about loot goblin running and filling up inventories, if you are new to the game, this isn't the very best income source, but I do love the feeling of getting back to the station with a large amount of gear to sell and sort through for what I'd like to keep for my own adventures. So do with this what you like. I'd love the design of the Pisces. It's sleek and tough looking, quick and easy to handle. But the Pisces does also have a drawback that for me is a big one. While you get lots of space and even seats for crewmates, there is no bed logging feature with this ship. So you'd have to end adventures always landing at a hangar. I enjoy the Pisces, but not as much as the next ship on our list. Affectionately dubbed as my magic school bus, the next ship on this list is the ship I chose to start my journey out with last year, the Drake Cutter. An industrial design that gives minibus or RV vibes, the Cutter has been my go-to starter ship ever since I started playing the game. The Drake Cutter has some good inventory space and can carry 4 SCU of cargo in the back. Not a great amount, but it's enough to get yourself started on some light gold cargo runs. There is a neat live-in area in the middle of the ship where you get a bed for bed logging and other live-in amenities, and a weapons rack for storing weapons and multi-tools as you enter the pilot's cockpit section. I've literally lived inside the ship. I absolutely love the design. It's rugged and hard work ready. The VTOL system involves rotating the main engines, and this is not only super helpful when learning to fly, but it looks really cool too. Some drawbacks though that I've picked up on my time with the Cutter are that the handling is not super nimble like the last couple of ships we've mentioned. It's heavier in movement and not something I'd necessarily would want to take to a fight, even though I have taken it to the races. Other than that though, my Magic School Bus is something I'll keep in my hangar for a long time. There are 2 other variants of this ship too, the Scout and the Rambler. Here's a quick run through of the Rambler. I found this one abandoned during recording and I just had to take a look. It has a few changes to the design and ship areas, but with only 2 SCU of space in this one's cargo area, I mean it's really nice, but I prefer the base version of the Cutter as a first ship. And whilst the Cutter was my first ship, the next ship on the list definitely had my eye when I was about to get started. The Origin Jumpworks 100i series. A much more luxury feeling entry to the starters on our list, the 100i is a really good looking ship on the outside, and on the inside it keeps up the trend. I like the way it feels high end even with so little space involved. There's a sleep area for bed logging, a semi-decent inventory space for gear, and easy access to the SCU cargo storage where you can carry up to 2 SCU of cargo. I definitely suggest keeping this as single SCU boxes though, as it can get a little bit difficult when manually moving them. The fighting capabilities are decent. I'd switch out for some quicker firing weapons though, but the nimble turning and quick handling made the dogfighting feel fun and stylish. I did notice that the fuel tank on the 100i felt kind of small while traveling around. and the 2 SE of carry space would be the only drawbacks that were noticeable to me. What's really catching about the 100i series is the design. The outside of the ship looks sleek, luxurious, and stylish. I love the paint, and I really love the design. But while I enjoyed myself in the 100i, the next ship is an absolute fan favorite and easily the most recommended starter ship through all the feedback and research I've done. If you know, you know. It's the Avenger Titan. Praised by many for being the best, most versatile starter ship out there, it's hard to disagree after getting some time to play with her for this video. I wish I had had a little more budget back then to put into my first game package even. The Titan's design is really well detailed from top to toe and definitely has the Avengers feel to it. Some decent weaponry to start out, although I'd change out the ballistics Gatling gun for a laser repeater though, but that's just personal preference I think. The ship has 2 entry points and a ton of space in between. There's a large inventory and bed logging area that are already stacking it high in the order, but to seal the deal for me would be the cargo carry area. The Titan can hold up to 8 SE of cargo, making it an extremely good way to get yourself started out as a mini hauler with absolute style. The handling is great, though I don't like the cockpit area very much. It just feels dated in the design compared to the other ships, but it's a fast ship. And it's really easy to learn to fly in. Definitely able to go the distance, and there's not much I can find wrong with the Avenger Titan. It's really evident why this is one of the most recommended starter ships out there. The next ship though looks to challenge the rest in aesthetics, innovation, and gameplay. The alien entry into the starter ship arena with a name I'm probably going to say extremely wrong. The Gatac Syulen. I had to borrow one of these starters from a kind player in the XGR Discord, Lord Utan, so special thanks to them for letting me take it for a spin to do this quick review. The alien starter immediately screams different in its design. Most noticeable for me was the fact that the cockpit is on the top of the ship in a landed state, and that the body seems to be made from stone or a strangely refined metal. The texture is really cool though. I love the feeling it gives. The ship transforms after deactivating the landing gear into a star-like design that is vastly different from any of the other starters. And the weaponry on the Syulen is strong and fast. 3 repeaters and plenty of missiles. The fights are exciting with the speed you can move, and off the bat, I wouldn't change much. Maybe with more time I would find different things, but it's good the way it is to me. The inside of the ship is a very interesting little adventure in itself. 3 stories separated by a quick elevator from cockpit to airlock. In the middle you'll find the living quarters for bed logging and so on, but the most attractive feature to me is the way the ship's alien vibe and design comes through even when opening inside sections of the ship. I mean, just look at how good this opening and closing animation looks here. The alien starter ship has space for 6 SCU on the outside of the ship, essentially making the landing gear double up as the cargo carry area. It's not as much cargo as the Avenger Titan, but it's still a really decent enough amount for it to be notable. The biggest drawback for myself, especially if I'm looking at this for new players to the game who are going to have to learn how to fly their ships and how flight mechanics work in the game, is the way you land and take off in the Gatac Syulen. You start off vertically, and that means you don't use your spacebar to take off from the ground as you would with any other starter ship, which can be confusing for new players. Instead, you need to make use of your WASD thrusters to get it up into the air. Then, when landing, you need to make sure you're at 90 degrees facing the sky, or at least away from where you're landing completely. You can use third person for this landing though, but it's difficult for somebody brand new. Other than that, flying this ship, the handling is great. I really enjoy flying this Gatac ship, and when it's a part of the in-game store, I'll most probably be getting myself one so I can learn more about it for different game loops and upgrades. It's easily one of the best looking starter ships, that's for sure. With its alien influence, textures, HUD, and the design, the bodywork and engines are just so beautifully put together, and I absolutely love the color scheme of the standard paint as well. If I had to make a tier list for the ships that we've spoken about, from least recommended to most recommended, this is probably what it would look like. Least recommended for new players purely based on my own findings to most recommended with everything we've mentioned in the video so far. Starting out, I will say as a least recommended purely because of the flying difference that could cause issues for brand new players learning to fly, and no other reason, it would be the Gatac Syulen. Then the 100i. The ship is great, but the 2 SCU of cargo space is just not for me at all. The Pisces would be next because there's no bed logging available. Good ship, but I like having the bed logging feature. I'll slot in next the Aurora MR simply because of the cargo grid bug that needs to be fixed. You can still use the cargo grid, but you can't buy cargo from a terminal. Next up, surprisingly, the Mustang Alpha. Nothing bad to say. She needs you to buy her personal SCU box, yes, but otherwise, she's a worthy contender. My personal favorite, the Drake Cutter, is next. It's robust, it's ready for long travels with ample carry room. Man, I really love the Cutter. But finally, the number one pick, the number one recommendation, I'm sure you saw it coming, it's the Avenger Titan. It's got the space, it's got the firepower, it's got the nimbleness, the speed, and the abilities. Makes it a really clear outlier as a good starter ship. I know that there are people out there that live and die on the Nomad being the best starter, but remember, the whole point of this video is getting started in the game for under $100. Though, if you are a new player looking to get into the game, check it out in case you can spare the extra few, because the Nomad actually is a really good ship. What would your ship rankings be? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, farewell, citizens.